But I also, in working on these issues, have come to recognize security and privacy don't have to be a contradiction. We can protect both. And we have to, if we truly value our liberty. Then we have to take the steps that are necessary to share information and intelligence within Europe, as well as between the United States and Europe. To stop terrorists from traveling and crossing borders and killing innocent people. And as today's diffuse threats evolve, our alliance has to evolve. So we're going to have a NATO summit this summer in Warsaw. And I will insist that all of us need to meet our responsibilities, united, together. That means standing with the people of Afghanistan as they build. Their security forces and push back against violent extremism. It means more ships in the Aegean to shut down criminal networks. Who are profiting by smuggling desperate families and children. And that said, NATO's central mission is, and always will be, our solemn duty, our Article 5, commitment to our common defense. That's why we'll continue to bolster the defense of our frontline allies in Poland and Romania and the Baltic states. So we have to both make sure that NATO carries out its traditional mission. But also to meet the threats of NATO's southern flank. That's why we need to stay nimble, and make sure our forces are interoperable. And invest in new capabilities like cyber defense and missile defense. And that's why every NATO member should be contributing its full share, 2%. of GDP towards our common security, something that doesn't always happen. And I'll be honest, sometimes Europe has been complacent about its own defense. Just as we stand firm in our own defense, we have to uphold our most basic principles of our international order. And that's a principle that nations like Ukraine have the right to choose their own destiny. Remember that it was Ukrainians on the Maidan, many of them your age. Reaching out for a future with Europe that prompted Russia to send in its military. After all that Europe endured in the 20th century. We must not allow borders to be redrawn by brute force in the 21st century. So we should keep helping Ukraine with its reforms to improve its economy and consolidate its democracy and modernize its forces to protect its independence. And I want good relations with Russia, and have invested a lot in good relations with Russia. But we need to keep sanctions on Russia in place until Russia fully implements the Minsk agreements that Chancellor Merkel and President Hollande and others have worked so hard to maintain. And provide a path for a political resolution of this issue. And ultimately, it is my fervent hope that Russia recognizes that true greatness comes not from bullying neighbors, but by working with the world. Which is the only way to deliver lasting economic growth and progress to the Russian people. Now, our collective security rests on a foundation of prosperity, so that brings me to my second point. The world needs a prosperous and growing Europe, not just a strong Europe. but a prosperous and growing Europe that generates good jobs and wages for its people. As I mentioned before, the economic anxieties many feel today on both sides of the Atlantic are real. The disruptive changes brought about by the global economy, unfortunately. Sometimes are hitting certain groups, especially working class communities, more heavily. And if neither the burdens, nor the benefits of our global economy are being fairly distributed, it's no wonder that people rise up and reject globalization. If there are too few winners and too many losers as the global economy integrates, people are going to push back. So all of us in positions of power have a responsibility as leaders of government and business and civil society to help people realize the promise of economic and security in this integrated economy. And the good news is, we know how to do it. Sometimes we just lack the political will to do it. In the United States, our economy is growing again. But the United States can't be the sole engine of global growth. And countries should not have to choose between responding to crises and investing in their people. So we need to pursue reforms to position us for long-term prosperity. And support demand and invest in the future. All of our countries, for example, could be investing more in infrastructure. All of our countries need to invest in science and research. And development that sparks new innovation and new industries. All of our countries have to invest in our young people. and make sure that they have the skills and the training and the education they need to adapt to this rapidly changing world. All of our countries need to worry about inequality, and make sure that workers are getting a fair share of the incredible productivity that technology and global supply chains are producing. But if you're really concerned about inequality, if you're really concerned about the plight of workers, if you're a progressive, it's my firm belief that you can't turn inward. That's not the right answer. But we can't do that individually, nation by nation, because finance now is transnational. It moves around too fast. If we're not coordinating between Europe and the United States and Asia, then it won't work. As the world has been reminded in recent weeks, we need to close loopholes that allow corporations and wealthy individuals to avoid paying their fair share of taxes through tax havens and tax avoidance. Trillions of dollars that could be going towards pressing needs like education and healthcare and infrastructure. But to do that, we have to work together. Here in Europe, as you work to strengthen your union including through labor and banking reforms. And by ensuring growth across the Eurozone you will have the staunch support of the United States. But you're going to have to do it together. Because your economies are too integrated to try to solve these problems on your own. And I want to repeat, we have to confront the injustice of widening economic inequality. But that is going to require collective work, because capital is mobile, and if only a few countries are worrying about it, then a lot of businesses will head toward places that don't care about it quite as much. For a lot of years, it was thought that countries had to choose between economic growth and economic inclusion. Now we know the truth when wealth is increasingly concentrated among the few at the top. It's not only a moral challenge to us, but it actually drags down a country's growth potential. We need growth that is broad and lifts everybody up. We need tax policies that do right by working families. And those like me who support European unity and free trade also have a profound responsibility. To champion strong protections for workers, a living wage and the right to organize, and a strong safety net. And a commitment to protect consumers and the environment upon which we all depend. If we really want to reduce inequality, we've got to make sure everyone who works hard gets a fair shot, and that's especially true for young people like you with education. And job training, and quality health care and good wages. And that includes, by the way, making sure that there's equal pay for equal work for women. The point is, we have to reform many of our economies. But the answer to reform is not to start cutting ourselves off from each other. Rather, it's to work together. And this brings me back to where I began. The world depends upon a democratic Europe that upholds the principles. Of pluralism and diversity and freedom that are our common creed. As free peoples, we cannot allow the forces that I've described, fears about security or economic Anxieties to undermine our commitment to the universal values that are the source of our strength. Democracy, I understand, can be messy. It can be slow. It can be frustrating. I know that. I have to deal with the Congress. And when I talk about democracy, I don't just mean elections, because there are a number of countries. Where people get 70, 80% of the vote, but they control all the media and the judiciary. And civil society organizations and NGOs can't organize, and have to be registered, and are intimidated. I mean real democracy, the sort that we see here in Europe and in the United States. So we have to be vigilant in defense of these pillars of democracy, not just elections, but rule of law. As well as fair elections, a free press, vibrant civil societies where citizens can work for change. And we should be suspicious of those who claim to have the interests of Europe at heart and yet don't practice the very values that are essential to Europe, that have made freedom in Europe so real. So, yes, these are unsettling times. And when the future is uncertain, there seems to be an instinct in our human nature to withdraw to the perceived. Comfort and security of our own tribe, our own sect, our own nationality, people who look like us, sound like us. But in today's world, more than any time in human history, that is a false comfort. It pits people against one another because of what they look or how they pray or who they love. And yet, we know where that kind of twisted thinking can lead. It can lead to oppression. it can lead to segregation and internment camps. And to the show and Srebrenica.